This channel is supported by TrueFire. TrueFire is an online library of lessons from some of my favourite players. There's thousands of lessons on there. You can use the promo code JNC40 to get 40% off of any of their courses. It looks like there's been another spate of sort of calling out Instagram guitarists as being fakes, and I wanted to kind of talk about it a little bit because I can't quite see what the benefit is in highlighting some of these folks, because I just basically came up in my Instagram discovery reel like a guy kind of just showing his raw audio takes and saying like, yes, my videos are produced, and it kind of just ends up, I think, looking like a little bit sad on behalf of A, the person that's saying or like trying to put a spotlight on that, and then B, on the guy that's got to defend themselves. And I thought there's kind of some nuance to all of this. And it's happened before. I think it was Jared Dines that called out Manuel Gardner. I can't say your name. But you know the guy that does like the fast stuff from the band Unprocessed and Unprocessed. But yeah, I thought it could be worth talking about a little bit. What is real anyway, and kind of discuss some of this stuff. So, my impression of what it was to be like a guitar god when I was young would be that these guitarists would basically show up to a session, sort of just play guitar, and that would be what they sounded like. And you hear something like Venus Isle, and you hear Eric Johnson's playing on some of these albums like Avia, Musicom, and you think, wow, that's incredible. Or Alan Holdsworth, like some of these absolutely bonkers players. And I thought, you know, these guys go in, they're paying for studio time, they probably get it done in one take or two, and or is that stuff improvised? You know, how does this work? I think actually we don't know enough about how those processes work unless you are one of these guys. Like, what is the real process for getting to the end result of, you know, like the solo from Lonely in the Night? Like, how did that get arrived at? Was it just Eric Johnson sat in a control room doing one take, one pass through this incredible piece of music and coming up with this incredible solo? Or was it something a little bit different to that? So what I'm guessing is that there are lots of recorded solos over time that have been anything but just a one take situation, right? And I think this is the thing that I try to keep in mind when, because a lot of these guys making these Instagram videos are young guys, and I get the idea that where it's like sort of you're looking at the video and you're going, wait, that doesn't exactly sound like my guitar sounds if I'm making a guitar video. Like, maybe there's like these dead stops of silence, maybe there's this weird production stuff where maybe the whole thing sounds very clean. But equally, I think it's important to try to remember that maybe think about these Instagram videos as like your first time that you're going to see one of these players. And this might be their opportunity to kind of make a little bit of a name for themselves. Whether it's someone like Matteo Sasato, Matteo Mancuso, you know, there are these big names now, Jack Gardner, that we know of because they put up, you know, like a few videos that were incredible. And so I think it naturally makes sense that for a bunch of people trying to make their name known, that they would put as much effort into sort of any one video as possible to try and get it to be as good as physically possible. And I think there is also a benefit to this in terms of like pushing your boundaries. Now, I'm someone that improvises like everything, and you mostly hear like first, second, third take. Back in the Instagram days, it was a totally different approach where it was more like there was more prepared stuff, but also what would happen, because I had loads of time to try and get the perfect take, is that I would sit there for maybe an hour and try and play things. Or the other thing that you could do sometimes is improvise over a track for like 7-8 minutes and then chop it down to the like 15-30 seconds, which actually you think best shows off your playing. So there are other things around, you know, how you present your guitar playing, which I think also could be seen as, you know, well, this is not how you really sound. Do you know what I mean? So I think this is kind of what I wanted to get to in this. So in the past, you know, there's the guy, is it Marcin, who does like tappy stuff. He's got hair and a red guitar. Like a lot of his videos are recorded in different places, like maybe outside. And this was similar to Manuel, where it's like the guitar's not plugged in, and so like necessarily you kind of just know that it's gonna be like a mimed performance, or you're not hearing like the raw audio. Naturally, in my mind, I kind of, hands up, assumed therefore that maybe Marcin wasn't, you know, of the level of someone like Mike Dawes or someone like that. But when you watch him actually playing live, like this guy is a freak. And there's some video of him like talking to an audience and just playing like two things whilst talking, or an ostinato whilst talking, like doing really impressive stuff. He's playing with, is it Jesse Molina? Something like that. And like is a great player. So the fact that he's probably been called out for faking videos in the past or whatever, but actually it just ends up being, well, maybe this guy was actually seeing Instagram as something different. Like, this was his way. Think of it more like, for some of these guys, like a music video or like a playthrough, where it's, you know, when you used to watch Periphery, Misha Mansour and stuff like that, like there would be like this thing which wasn't quite a music video, but wasn't just raw camera footage or raw improvisation or anything, but was like the guy showing how he played through a specific thing, whether it's the actual audio being used or not. I think there is this sort of grey area where it's not necessarily anyone trying to pull a fast one, but it's just how a way to do a guitar video on social media. You think about, you know, like Steve Vai, I think when he had like a hand injury, there's video of him playing with one hand. I don't think the audio actually matches up with that in some cases. Like for me, there was I could notice that there was some notes that were like picked. You know, no one. This is the main thing for me. It's like there are certain people, you know, where it's kind of safe-ish to call them out because they may be like a young guy on Instagram, but you know, no one calls out some of the bigger artists. You know, my favourite live album of all time, like Thin Lizzy, Live and Dangerous, there's overdubs on that. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's this whole thing where this idea about what is real and what is not, where I think once someone becomes established and stuff, we forgive quite a lot of this, whereas someone trying to make their name, when I was growing up, like this thing about like writing tunes on Guitar Pro that were maybe like a bit above your level, and then you try and play them, and I think there were sometimes people that would just upload like the Guitar Pro audio and play along with it, which is kind of funny. We're probably getting to a stage where there's gonna be more and more like advanced ways to do some of this stuff. I think you can tell oftentimes when someone is playing something quite rehearsed, or where the audio kind of is like obviously produced. I think oftentimes you can tell that's the case. For me, it's quite difficult personally because I'm improvising stuff, so it would just take too long to bother to go back and relearn it. There was a video with the Jack Gardner, what was it called that I did it? Ain't Nobody Got a Gig challenge. That I fixed one note in that solo, coming clean here, because there was like this weird note that kind of just went weird. But most of the time you hear a pretty raw representation of my stuff. But if it was a really dreadful solo, I'd just do another take. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's the thing to keep in mind. Like, in a bedroom like this, where you're trying to get something out to the world that maybe people are going to like or pay attention to, you're able to kind of curate, you're able to edit, you're able to try and elevate the thing as well. And it makes sense to do so, because otherwise maybe you're just going to be in amongst the algorithm with other folks. Equally, there's this other thing to me, which was that I kind of made the decision that I didn't want it to be the case that someone might one day see me playing live and be like, well, that's a completely different thing going on to what happens when I saw that person playing in their bedroom in that Instagram video. At the same time, I've not really pushed myself to be at this kind of elite level where I'm playing stuff which is so far out of my capability that I've had to work really hard to get to it. And I think that's another thing to think about, where sometimes like these methods can actually push a guitarist to do something a little bit out of their reach, and maybe they get there. Equally, like I've seen Dream Theater live and seen Dream Theater live DVDs, there's plenty of stuff which John Petrucci doesn't replicate perfectly live, which is on the album. And maybe we should think about those like little Instagram videos as more of like that kind of thing, where it's like trying to give like the best thing of a thing, which is more like an album take. Does that make any sense? I don't know what these guys are doing on Instagram. Does it matter totally? Maybe not. Do they need to be called out for it? Maybe not. Does it mean if they're miming their videos that they can't play? Absolutely not. What is the reason for miming? Maybe it is so that they could get this super produced sound, which is more like what they might be hearing on an album, like a Polyphia album or stuff like that. There's quite a lot of nuance to it, I think. Probably. Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Here's I mimed the intro. I didn't.